with all due respect.
All right, with all due respect, number 22. Zach, this is only 22, man. I look up at yours and you're like, episode number 3,500 with Zach Underground Streets Club. And I'm like, man, if I can get to that many, still have the energy to share all that, man. I said, I hope I get there. And I'm like, man, episode 22. And
still trying to make it happen. I don't
yeah,
know.
right?
I don't know how to quit. Could be smart, could be too dumb.
Well, you know what I tell people? I told Gray, I said, Gray, we're gonna start a podcast. I got some shit to say. Right? And like,
Good.
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And we got it out there. We cover a bunch of different topics, and I'm so excited to have you, Zach. Like we said, we started chatting a little bit before this, and like you're like, oh, this is part of it. Let's record. I'm gonna tell you, and this is gonna age all of us, man. I've been watching your stuff. I'm gonna tell you 2005.
Yep. Well, YouTube, I started in 06, but
Okay, 06, 05, I want to say. I was gonna say
Yeah.
somewhere between 05, 07 is when I first started watching your stuff, and a guy came up to me and was like, "Man, this guy Zach was in our gym at the little. I don't know if you were ever in the little spot. I think you were the small little gym, that little turf area. Sorinex was in the front, with a small little turf area in the back, and I think you've been there's where all the Zuber plates were at. And Pops had
Yeah.
all those things there.
It's
and
like a strip plaza,
it
right?
was a strip mall, and we put turf in
Loved
the
it.
back and up front, and we started there. And a buddy of mine was kind of working with Sorinex, and he's like, "Man, you got to pull up YouTube and start looking up this stuff this guy Zach's doing." I was like, "He's posting every day," and you were,
Yep.
man. You were posting every day,
6 months in a row. I did
6 months in a row, every day. What caused you to just start posting? Like, what did you just like? I got something to say, and I'm posting.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I was so fired up to share
Yeah.
everything that we were doing.
Yeah.
And also, my history is really, I just trained the absolute opposite of what I needed to do as a wrestler. And it caused me a lot of pain to work so hard
Yeah.
and lose. And the lesson was, you can work as hard as you want, but if you're Louis Simmons said, if you're strong at the wrong exercises in the wrong muscle groups, it does nothing. And what's crazy, I say this so much, is I'm like, okay, it's almost the year 2025, and athletes with all this information, I mean, there is new content being released every second. With all this information, they're still doing stuff dumber than me.
Yeah.
30 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
kids say the craziest shit to me. Today, a kid said to me, wrestler, he's like, I weigh 136. I got to get to 132. I'm like, dude, you'll lose that in one practice. Like, you're going to lose it. He's like, well, today, what was breakfast? I ate a banana, no protein. Well, I've been handing them a 2-page front and back. I just make a photocopy of it, nutrition guidelines. I say, take a photo of the front and the back, favorite it, send it to your parents, and then post this on the fridge. And they still don't listen. Then they're like, another kid told me today, it's like, how do I lose fat? I go, at your age, best thing you can do is build muscle and eat a ton. And I said, tell me what you ate for breakfast today. Nothing. Tell me what was lunch. Nothing. He's like, I just eat a big dinner. I go, you're not some 40-year-old, adult who's intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
You're an athlete, and you need to eat, and you need to load protein. And I think parents don't get it still with all this information that's out there. We're still in this battle to educate. More knowledge, more information has not equated to more knowledge, as you know.
Yeah, no, man, it's so crazy you say that. I said that today. So I teach a wellness class in a high school environment, and really what I'm doing is sharing with kids how to be healthy. We'll show videos, we'll show documentaries, we'll talk about and I had all the kids share, like not even share it. They did a 2-day food log. I said, you don't have to even share it with anybody. I don't need to see it. I'm not trying to shame you. I'm going to have you sit in front of this food log, and I'm going to do the 10 things that make up a healthy athlete or a healthy teenager, right? And I made the statement to somebody today about that. I said, we can obviously not educate people into health. We have to do it through community, culture, leading by example,
Yes.
And it starts with us first as teachers, as coaches, as parents at home. Kids pick up those habits. I use this story. Um, my kid was playing a video game. We're when I was 8 years old, and this was probably 3 years ago. And something happened when he played that game, and he goes, "You got." He dropped the game. He goes, "You got to be shitting me." Zach, he said it in context.
Right.
He said it in context as a 5-year-old. And I'm like he threw his hands up and he goes, "You gotta be shitting me." And he's
Because
5.
they
And
don't they
you know where it
commu
came from, bro? Me.
Oh, well,
He
also
heard me talk that way.
kids also my son plays video games, and I remember my wife would always be like, who is he talking to?
Yeah,
You're like playing a game against some other dude
yeah,
in Texas or California, and
yeah,
it could be an adult.
yeah, yeah,
My wife.
yeah. I've never
Yeah.
understood kids who watch other people play video games on TV. You ever know? My kid will watch other kids play video games. I'm like, what are we doing? Right? I didn't understand that. But the concept of not really being able to educate it starts with us. Habits are caught, not taught. Right?
I love it.
And like, and in your environment. Now, if someone's listening, they don't know who they are, and a lot of our community might be nutrition based, not from the strength conditioning high school. You have a gym, right?
Mhm.
That you train athletes at. You also work in a high school environment similar to me. And your gym, what I thought was cool is when I started my facility, I was like, I need to have all these high tech things. I need to have these high tech force plates was big back then, and I need to have this crazy. I need to have all the cool stuff, and I need to get all this great. Your gym, man, is put together with the most hardcore training utensils you can ever think of. Like when I first watched videos, I'm like, that dude looks like he made that sled.
With
Right.
my dad owned a they made medical instruments, surgical
Yeah.
instruments. And so sometimes they would have just like scrap metal, and he had welders working for him. So I remember my first sled I ordered from Louis Simmons
Yeah.
on the phone. He says, he calls Doris to get on the phone. He sent me the sled. It just had a book of stamps taped to the sled. There was
Oh, how
there
Louis is
was
that, right?
dude, there was no box.
Yeah.
And the toe strap was just like wrapped around with like saran wrap, like very
Yeah.
tightly,
Yeah. Yeah.
not like actual
Yeah.
packaging stuff. And so I remember my dad making me some sleds, but our first sleds I actually made were tires that there was a tire yard in my town, which ironically was like several blocks from my first gym. And so my wife's uncle, he drilled a hole in the tires, put an eye bolt in it, and I ordered toe straps, I think from a company in South Carolina that probably makes stuff for Spud Ink. It's called Talco,
Yeah.
Talco. And
Okay.
I remember calling the guy, I still remember his name, such great manners. Gordon was his name 20 years ago. So he
Oh wow.
could
Yeah.
have retired by now, but I was explaining to him, hey, I do this strength training, and we're going to put these toe straps through the eye bolt, and I need my hands to fit through there so I could pull it and push it. And he kind of listened to me, and I would order from him, and he sent me, we still have those toe straps.
That's awesome.
They have not broken, which is in today's day and age of building things, if it doesn't break, you go out of business
Yeah.
because,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So all that stuff was built, most of it. Some companies, as you know, you and I kind of came up through this industry
Yep.
together. A lot of those companies went out of business. So, for example, Michael Easter had GoRuck, or Michael Easter sent me GoRuck sandbags.
Mhm.
I got like early sandbags from Iron Woody. Do you remember
Mhm.
that
Yeah, I remember
company?
Ryan Woody. Yep. Yep.
Iron Woody. There was
Yep.
another company. The sandbags were white, and we didn't know really what to fill them with. So
Yeah.
on forums, we were talking about sand. That's a mess. So people were like, use pea gravel. Dude, let me tell you something. Shouldering and like hitting your body with stones is the
Yeah.
dumbest thing. But
Yeah. I
we
remember they
just
used to
did
sew
it.
them up like football. They used to have the sewn up like the football.
Correct.
Correct. Like you're like, well, and they didn't last long. And
Everything
I feel like
broke.
there was a few guys that came through that were big into sandbags. I think they showed up at Sorinex a few times.
Josh Henkin.
Josh Hankins. That's it. That's
I
it.
didn't
Yep.
make that.
Yep.
I saw
Yep. Josh Hankins.
that,
Yep.
and I was so upset that I didn't make it. That was pre-2010. You're talking
Yeah.
like 07, 08.
Okay. And he was
I
big
should have made it.
sandbag. God, I remember he showed up and he did a whole thing on the sandbag training. And man, it's crazy where the industry has. I remember, man, and I just remember watching your stuff, going like, you know what? Kids can get strong and get gritty, right? Kids can get
Yeah.
strong and get gritty. I don't need $300,000 worth of stuff. I can't tell you how many things old Richard Soren, rest in peace, like my second father. I can't tell you how many times we wanted something and that guy would make a prototype
Yeah.
because the kids needed it. Man, he did it for the kids. The
What did
kids were all
he?
training.
What was he making you?
I remember when he'd make like prototyping uh the big inch dumbbell. He'd make smaller ones so the kids could do it. And
Yeah.
he would fill it up so young kids could come do it and lift the inch dumbbell. And man, he'd sit there. It wasn't gonna make money. He did it because like, well, let's get the kids doing it, right? Let's
Yeah.
get the kids doing. Make smaller prototypes of the inch dumbbells. Um, uh, just remember the 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 things that are using CrossFit now.
Oh, the rig.
The rigs.
They made
The
the
first ones.
first.
It was
Yes,
in
and
Yeah.
that. It was in that place. It was in that building. It was in
people
that
don't
place.
people
The
don't
first one
know
ever,
that.
because
I saw it.
he wanted to get the as many kids lifting at the same time on regular tubing, and they weren't going to be squatting like 600 pounds.
Correct.
And he created a small rig, um, and I can't remember what he called it, but it was a small rig that like 6 or 8 kids could squat on at the same time in bigger rooms.
Yes. I think it was called. It was just maybe called the Sornex rig, but people don't know that history, Josh.
Now they're
And so,
everywhere.
yeah.
Now,
Well,
a
I'll tell
history of
you.
strength and
Everywhere.
conditioning, you've really like Pops introduced it to me. Like I always loved working out. I loved speed training. I met Tony Villani real early in my career. I met Pete Bomarito real early in my
He's
career, who are now
genius. Those guys are
genius.
genius.
Yeah, right. And I was I was 23 years old. I didn't even know what I had like what I was talking to. Right. I met Esteban Bali, who came up with the long-term athletic development out of the Soviet Union and put together programs for kids. I was at IMG and he was sitting at a lunch table having conversations with us. And I'm like,
I
some
think
Russian guy.
Pete mentions him all the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
Pete
Pete talks about
Bomarito
him all the
mentions
time.
him all the
He
time.
was at IMG. Pete was like he was a trainer. He was one of the coaches at IMG, and I was his intern for 6 months under Pete at 22 years old, right? With Esteban,
That's
and I was
amazing.
just a 22-year-old kid, like, I didn't know, right? And
Dang.
I know, isn't that crazy when you look back and I'm like, dang, like these guys are all over
I'm
the
like,
place.
I'm envious. I entered
Tony's,
it when it was,
I should have been more. I should have
I
known. I should have
entered
been
it
more.
when it was so trendy. I
Yeah.
should have been there 20 years ago.
It was different. Tony was, I mean, doing speed stuff I've never seen. Pete Bomarito was like Rain Man, bro. I mean, I'm telling you, the stuff he would do blew my mind. Um, and coming through that era, man, strength and conditioning was about to pop off. Really, high schools didn't even have high school strength coaches having strength conditioning coaches. They had amateur bodybuilders. They had a guy that played football.
Well,
It was
down
their
by
strength coach.
you, were you in South Carolina
No,
or
that was in
North?
Florida when I
Oh, you were in Florida.
I was in Florida when I started and then moved to South Carolina.
I just feel like South Carolina through I went to South Carolina first time in 09 for the at Wake Forest for the North Carolina State Strength Clinic.
Yeah.
Which
Legend,
was
right?
always
The legend, right? The
Yep.
legend. Yeah.
Yeah. Coach Ethan Reeve
Yep.
would
Ethan
do
Reeves.
it.
Yep.
$5 to enter. And when I went there, it was always during college winter break, but there was always a camp going on. And the camp was always football players, 100, 110 kids training. So I remember the first time I went there, that may not have been the first time. Maybe it was the second time. I did like a body weight circuit with the football players. Right before me, Coach Istvan Yavorik was doing weightlifting.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding? He was
Yep.
at that
And
clinic?
then yeah, so he was teaching them weightlifting. Then I did the body weight stuff. But I just remember like it's 2009 and there were high school strength coaches all over the place from
South
that
Carolina.
area.
Like Mike Schrock was probably there, right?
Mike, I met Mike because Coach McKenna introduced me to him, and Coach Mike was talking about how many years he had been a high school strength coach, and I was like, I didn't even know that job existed, but evidently South Carolina, I think Texas, way ahead of the curve. But before I forget, the rig, I had, my first squat rack for my garage was from Sornex. It was called the Acme half rack.
Yeah.
And I'm tempted to ask Bert to make it for me again, but just bigger and a little more tricked out. But I bought it and my ceiling was not high. I could basically like lift my arm and my knuckle would be, a few inches from the ceiling. So I asked them to custom the height. And then I said, I need the pull-up bar lowered so our head doesn't go through the ceiling. But I said, but do me a favor, drill holes, because eventually I'm going to own my own gym and I'm going to move that pull-up bar up. So my first squat rack was this Acme half rack. It was army green with gold bleed on it. It was sick. The color was just crazy. I told Bert I would call Bert on like my flip phone or a house phone. And I said, I love these military colors. And I said to them, but I don't really want to tell you guys what color to exactly make it. I want you to just let your artistic, let your inner artist flow with this. I want military green, but do something to make it a little bit more special. And they put the gold bleed in it. It looked amazing. And I had a 2-car garage. And pre-2010, it may have been 09, I spoke at the CrossFit affiliate gathering. And I feel like that was kind of right before CrossFit was blowing up, was going nuts. Like I met a lot of coaches from Florida. They were telling me there's a CrossFit across the street, next to them, down the block. So Sornex was the equipment sponsor in a room. And so they had the rig set up, they had the root hog, they had their bumper plates, all their stuff. And then at the end, they sold everything. And I remember a Brazilian guy who moved to Florida. He's like, with his accent, he's like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's like, I could train all these people. And they were talking about how many people they were training at a time, 30, 50. There was this place called I Am CrossFit that had 2 floors and was training like 75 people per floor. I'm like, 75 barbells? It's crazy. And so it was the beginning of putting big numbers into all their equipment. So they cleared out those guys, all the CrossFit people bought all the Sornex equipment. Then, as you know, like I always say to people, listen, some people are like, hey, you stole this, you stole that. And then I'll say, listen, Rogue took everything I see, and it's unfortunate. We see this in everything. Like you name a bodybuilding machine, maybe Body Masters made it, but then Cybex made it. It's just like, it kind of sucks to see.
Do you know the idea behind the landmine, right?
Yes. I saw Bert sent me in the early days of VHS of him and Cyborg and Pops was lifting quite a lot. And they had the landmine that you could put in the corner. But I don't know where he saw it. There's that old video of like Russian boxers throwing it.
So I think he got inspired by some of those fitness magazines from like the 50s, 60s, right? That he had. And he made the landmine because he wanted that angle of press for Bert for hammer throwing and shot putting.
Makes sense.
And he literally made it for Bert when Bert was like 19, like late night. And now the angled bar, now there's angled bar training, landmine. And I'm like, Richard Soren came up with that, like the first, like for
Alex
Bert.
Kanellis does the whole rotational landmine. So it's so interesting to see how like they created this equipment. And then some of the most creative minds looked at it and then went like an inch wide, a mile deep with all that stuff. At one point, I had their Sornex. I mean, their Hurricane, the Sornex Hurricane.
I had a Hurricane. Yeah, I had a Hurricane.
Yeah, but I just
made for the Hurricanes in 2001 with Tommy Moffitt because Tommy Moffitt wanted something like that in 2001. And now Tommy Moffitt's on Twitter.
What's
He's
the
not-
hurricane?
Wait, Tommy Moffitt or Tommy Myslinski wanted
No,
it?
Tommy
Who-
Moffitt. Tommy Moffitt at Miami. So
Yeah.
a hurricane is this it's this piece of equipment that has these angled arms that come off it, and you can measure how low the arms go and how high they go. You can stand and press it. You can bring it all the way down, put a bench.
It's
press the
all in
arms.
one.
It's all in one.
machine.
Yeah.
So if I
Okay.
want to slide a bench into it,
Yeah.
I could press it. I could do bent over row. You could clean and press.
Press it.
Then they
Yeah.
created a pipe. So it basically is jammer arms,
Mhm.
Gray. That's
Yeah.
what it is jammer
Yeah.
arms, but then you could attach things to it. And so again, they were creating equipment as the college strength and conditioning scene was really requiring this versatility. How do we handle all these kids at
one
once?
time. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so the problem was when I'm busy, I had to say, do I want the hurricane or do I want a third squat rack?
Yeah.
I need, I couldn't have all these kids waiting online at my gym to squat. So
Yeah.
now we have a third squat rack. It's an old hammer strength that I purchased from a local university when they got upgraded. And it's so long ago that, this university didn't have the funds because they put it together. So they put the uprights, it's two left-sided ones. And so we just call it the prison rack. It's so old and faded, but I think I want to get a half rack if the half rack can attach jammer arms, which I don't know if their half rack does.
I don't know.
I think it does.
Zach, you're a historian of this game, aren't you? Like,
yeah,
I remember watching you talk about the Zuber plates with Pops.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
and
while
the
back.
gold Zuber plates with Pops, and listen to that. Like you study the history of the strength game, right?
I think what happened was, in bodybuilding, what always inspired me was Arnold's encyclopedia, the black and white photos. Those photos came to life. They were I'd look at the photo and I felt like I could hear the weights. Yeah. And I actually remember I would go to Israel like every other summer to visit my grandparents. And I remember I took some bodybuilding books and magazines with me, and I had the high intensity books by Ellington Darden. Mm-hmm. Well, inside one of those books was old bodybuilding ads, and I couldn't read the text. Well, my grandfather was old, so he gives me a magnifying glass, and I wasn't so interested in reading the book. I was more interested in reading the 1960s ad that was in the book that was just there to for photos. And in the early 2000s, when I started utilizing the internet more, I kept coming across Dave Draper's website. Yep. And Dave Draper would write a weekly email that was jumping out of the computer. And he spoke about the Dungeon Gym, which was underneath a bar or a pub in Santa Monica. And I remember reading that article, being in my room, living with my parents, and playing Rocky 3 on DVD. And I paused it when Rocky and Apollo walk up to Tough Gym, and then the camera goes up and it says Tough Gym in vertical. I pause it, took out a sheet of paper, and I just drew that logo. And I thought my first gym would be Tough Gym, which I wonder if I should totally rebrand or if I've gone too far down this whole rabbit hole with underground strength. Sometimes I feel underground strength was it scares people off, in the business sense. But anyway, that kind of stuff was so inspiring to me because I felt like it meant something. Today, I look at a lot of stuff, even a lot of the strength and conditioning stuff. To me, so I said it yesterday, I go, this is kind of bullshit. You're posting all these videos, and did you just post those videos to get to post novel stuff? Mm-hmm. Or are you really believing that weird ass jump that you just did is exactly what you need for your 16-year-old athlete? And it bothers me because I feel like it's just clown shit. Yeah. I don't really want to be part of that. That's why I feel at home when I'm at Summer Strong. I tend to not, no offense to all the speakers, but I tend to just catch up with old times with friends. And a lot of those guys are older than you and I. They're mid 50s, they're early 60s, but the stories and the wisdom that they're sharing. I can't relate to what's going on in college now with all the technology, the constant measuring of stuff.
Yeah.
I actually hated doing that when I was in college. When I was at Rutgers implementing technology, none of the kids wanted that. They wanted to just pick it up,
Yeah.
put it down,
We
and
keep
be
technology out of the weight
focused.
room. We keep technology out of the weight room. People say we need to have these apps that come with the phone. I need kids off the phone, first off. You know,
Yeah.
Pops used to always say how kids got stronger in the 60s is how kids get stronger now. It ain't changed. It ain't changed, man.
I was just about to say that, like, to touch on what you said earlier about information being so at hand. There's so much information that people don't know, they don't know what to do anymore. They see all of this stuff online and they're like, well, that's what I should be doing. But we all know from years of experience in it, what works is the boring shit.
Yeah.
It's stuff that you want to do every day.
Yeah.
You
It's
know?
what's happening is I even admit it. I've even been confused sometimes where I start to
Yeah.
think, should I just do a little bit more of this and da da da?
Mhm.
Yesterday I spoke with Jeremy Hartman, and he's in Ohio and Indiana, which is like blue collar central. And we were talking about the most successful kids we've trained. And even my daughter, next year, my daughter will go to a Division I university to play tennis. And my daughter very often trains twice a day. You know, my wife said she's like our old Doberman. Our Doberman was fucking crazy. And I was like, dude, we need a farm. We need a farm. She just wants to run and go. So let's say my daughter has a match. She'll have a tennis match. Then, like right now, today she didn't have a match. Yesterday I had a match. She had practice today. She drives about 45 minutes away for her private. In the off season, they do groups. So then it's an hour private, 45 minutes back. So we're looking at 2.5, 3 hours. And I won't be shocked. It's 7:30. I won't be shocked if she goes to my gym for like a 30-minute training session.
Yeah.
And so Jeremy and I were discussing, hey, look, give me like the rundown of your best athletes. What are they doing? And he's like, well, they often have to lift at school. Indiana has had full-time strength coaches, which I didn't know. They've had it like maybe before South Carolina. One of my friends said he had a full-time strength coach in the mid 80s. And the guy was not just some, old school bodybuilder, but he was like a high level athlete. If I recall correct, he may have been like an Olympian or an alternate for his sport.
Yeah.
So he said in 85, I had a full-time strength coach. So Jeremy said, a lot of these kids will do strength and conditioning at school, depending on what their schedule is. Then they'll come and see me later, twice a week. So private strength and conditioning. And then they're often doing their club sport, volleyball, wrestling. I think football, except for Florida, football is the only sport, or maybe Texas. Texas has spring ball, where these other sports are kind of going year round. But basically, in a nutshell, they're doing a lot of work. And the strength training, he said, is the clutch factor. It's making them durable. It's allowing them to sustain or build performance without the overuse injuries and getting beat up. It builds their confidence. And the kids that are getting hurt are doing too much sport and just not enough basic strength and conditioning.
I agree. There's too much competition. That's a sports thing, right? We have way too much competition, not enough training. The kids that are successful that I've had, and I look through this in the history of kids I've trained, the kids I've trained became meatheads. Dude, they loved it.
Yes.
And like, I always add fun things for kids to do in the weight room. I've always done it that way because kids want to see the arms pop off, right? They want to see the chest. They want to see the shoulder, right? You show a kid a little bit of that at 13, 14 years old, and you can't beat them out of the gym.
I got a funny story.
They love it. They turn into meatheads, right? And it's those meatheads that love it, that eat it up, and they're kill it in their sport because they're Louis always said 11 strong kids will beat the crap out of 11 weak kids any time of the day. And that's how I train. That's how I train my high school kids. My 11 strong kids, my 11 strong kids are going to beat up your 11 weak kids.
Especially at the high school level, it's such a massive advantage. When you get to college and the skill level,
talent's pretty there.
Yep, talent, skill. What, Greg? Where do you coach with Josh? Do you guys coach in the same?
We have a business. We have a business, Phnm Nutrition, that works a bunch of online coaching and online nutrition work with people. Yeah. Yeah.
And is
So
it all around the country?
Yeah,
People
we work
reaching
with
out?
people all over. Yeah, people reaching out
yeah,
all over the place.
It's
yeah.
Yeah.
I just
very
played
smart.
sports my entire life, so I kind of know the background of it. But
Where are you,
yeah,
right? In South Carolina?
Yep.
I'm in Greenville.
Yep. Oh, I was just on a podcast with two guys that were local to me, and it's Jimmy's in Florida, but Richie Airy, their podcast called Airy Brothers. Richie teaches in the Greenville School District. So
Okay.
Oh,
they were in the town next door. We're in little beach towns. They moved around a lot, but Richie was early days CrossFit Endurance when Brian
Okay.
McKenzie was
Yeah.
teaching that. And they both wrestled, but Richie was also a runner. And so he's in Greenville teaching phys ed, strength and
wow, that's
conditioning,
awesome.
wrestling, track.
Where is he
Very like,
at? Do you know?
I'll put you guys in touch.
Yes,
I
yeah.
think he's in the Greenville public school
Yeah.
district.
Well, there's like 17 different
Yeah,
schools.
yeah.
It's so right.
There's a
I've
ton.
noticed like
Yeah.
it's massive there, but
Yeah.
their podcast is called Airy Brothers,
Okay.
and they're great guys. They're very inquisitive, and I think
Yeah.
every podcast is wrestling coach, track coach,
Yeah.
and great guys. But you were talking about just like the physique. So this year, I'm in my 6th year at the high school. And what the way it was supposed to work, guys, is very interesting. I got hired the summer before COVID. And so they said, here, your schedule is going to be this. You're going to have one phys ed class, and you're going to pull athletes out of those phys ed classes. So you'll be on block 5 or 6, and there's 3 or 4 other blocks, and you will pull athletes and go to the weight room. Then after school, you'll do 2 or 3 blocks. And the school I'm at, very well known for athletics, they all just made it optional. And there was no, I don't want to say enforcement. There was really no encouragement from the coaches, from the phys ed teachers / coaches to go with me to the weight room during phys ed. So what happened is I was just kind of stuck in the gym doing quote unquote regular PE stuff, which I kept saying to my supervisor and my AD, like, dude, I've been doing this for like 20 something years. I am not being utilized. I'm in here while kids have to play volleyball or this and that. Like I need to be taking athletes doing hill sprints, and nobody made it mandatory. Then COVID happened. Kind of in New Jersey, the schools were like hybrid. And so finally I had to get it turned into a class that kids had to register for. And you and I chatted about this last year as I was really took me 2 years at least to make it happen. So today it's so funny. It's majority boys. I have 3 girls in the class, swimmers, volleyball players. The boys take their shirts off and I don't care.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
just
yeah.
think to myself, this is an actual class.
Yeah.
They take their shirts off. And to me, I'm just like, whatever it takes. Some of those kids who are sophomores now, one of them gained about 35 pounds from last year. So he was like 135, something like that. Now he's 175 or he was 140. And he's lean. He's got abs. He's muscular. I mean, some kids gain 30 to 40 pounds in 4 years, which is basically like a pound a month. So I always tell them it doesn't sound like a lot, but you got to play the long game. But having this class kind of reminded me of what they're capable of, because we strength train. We get started around about 12:50, and no, we get started, my bad, 11:50, and we go until we have about 55 minutes. So we get started earlier. Bell goes 11:17, 11:30. We'll go about 55 minutes. They're finishing around 12:30. And then some of them are back in the weight room at 2:15. That's not even it's not even a 2-hour break. But you know what I think? All right, you did 5 sets of squats, maybe 4. You could actually do 5 more sets of squats.
Yeah.
That volume, in my hope, like, I don't know what the science is behind it if you have to do blood work, but it like boosts the release of hormones. It inspires more testosterone to be created amongst the boys. And then my hope is you are hungry because you've done 2 training sessions. And so you're going to go home and drink milk and eat everything because, or I got these kids that are eating nothing all day until dinner. Okay, you're the nutrition expert. So let me ask you guys, what do you think of, what is it doing to a 16-year-old's metabolism. These kids, the kids that don't eat enough, they actually have zero muscle. They
Oh
don't.
yeah, they
They
have
have
Of
zero muscle.
course.
Yeah, they have zero
Yeah, of
muscle.
course.
Yeah,
low muscle tone.
I do say that this is anecdotal. The kids that train the hardest to me tend to be the ones that eat the most because they're
Yes.
hungry
I can
and
support
they're
that. That's
full. I
me.
can support that too, right? They train the hardest, they eat the most, they're inquisitive.
Yeah.
Um, and man, you're talking about the kids that love it, so they're dedicated. So a dedicated kid is gonna eat better and eat
True.
more, right? Because they're more dedicated. It's just the nature of the hard worker, right? The
Yeah. You've
nature of
taught
the
them to
hard
love it.
worker, they love it, so they're gonna eat
Yeah.
more. But yeah, I had a kid go 149 to 176 in 7 months.
That's
So
insane.
27
27 pounds
pounds.
in
Yeah.
7 months.
Yeah.
I told him,
7 months.
I sat down with him and told him how to. Now puberty kicked in. I mean, everything was hitting. In 7 months, he gained 26 pounds in 7 months. Um, and he was a rocked up. He's playing football at Phnm now. Went 5'9", 149 to 176 in about 7-8 months. I couldn't get him out of the weight room, Zach. Like I literally was like, you got to go home.
He's at
Like,
your school.
Yeah.
yeah, he was. He was at our school. He loved it. Like his mom was like, "Hey, for Christmas, he wants books, like workout
Yes.
books."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Get him this."
Sounds
Get him.
like me.
You know what you know the first book because he was so prone for overtraining. I made him buy Supple Leopard.
Oh yeah.
I made him buy that because this kid was so due
Focus
for
on
overtraining. I was
Yeah.
like, I got to give this kid a book on recovery,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
And he would eat so much. Like he went home. His mom would text me. He's like, "My son came home and for Christmas asked for a rice cooker."
Some parents are not ready for that. Well, let me ask you guys, are you
They don't
also
get it.
yeah, are you also working with teens or just adults online?
Some
I don't
teens.
see a lot of kids. Yeah, Josh would see more
Yeah,
kids than I do. I've
see.
done
I'll do
consults with
consults. I'll do
kids.
consults with
Yeah.
kids. I'll get
Most
the
of
kid
mine,
and the mom on, and we'll do
yeah,
a consult for 30 minutes, and I'll just give
most
a
of
kid
mine are the moms.
basic. I've done consults with kids and parents, whether we get a Zoom, we have a conversation around what good nutrition looks like. I'll
Yep.
give them 3 or 4 goals, and maybe a month later we'll have a check-in consult. And you and I both know with kids, it's like don't skip a meal. I do the same thing you do, Zach. I have a sheet I email to them with 10 habits that good eaters do. And I said, pick 3 of these habits and hammer it home, right? Eat breakfast, do a post-workout shake, eat something before you go to bed. And just it's what we learned when we were kids watching TV shows. Eat your fruits and vegetables, high protein, drink your milk, eat your breakfast, and work really hard.
What are you saying for adults who are quote unquote like hitting that middle age? Like we are, I'm
Yeah.
not sure how old you are, Gray. Josh, I
I'm
think I'm a little
47.
old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 48.
Yeah.
So what do you say to the I have a lot of listeners in that
Yeah.
like parenting age,
Yep.
mid 30s, late
Yep.
40s. So what do
Mhm.
you guys do? Gray, what do you do for the adults?
As far as
Nutrition tip.
changing their nutrition habits,
Yeah.
same thing. It's the same thing. It doesn't change as you get older. It might change as far as how many workouts that you're getting. Like most of my clients are between 35 and 65. They're women. I don't always have them working out every single day, but I want you working out 3 to 5 days a week. Same thing applies. You're getting protein in at breakfast. You're eating breakfast. You're eating something after you work out. You're eating a balanced lunch, a balanced dinner. That's
And
what
you're
you pay
lifting weight,
attention
and you're
to.
lifting weights.
You're lifting weights. Yeah, it's the
and you're
same
lifting
thing.
weights. And as we get older,
Mhm.
you know this, man. I tell I got a physical therapist. I still train jujitsu, right? Grew up grappling, trained jujitsu, black belt in jujitsu. 47, which means the 25-year-old blue belt beat me up, right? That's what happens when you're 47.
You just got your black belt?
I've
this
been a
year?
black belt for about 8
Oh.
months. 8 months, yeah.
Oh wow.
And I've gone through a bunch of injuries,
I gotta
man.
say, I love the black belt. I don't know what you call it on Instagram, like the videos of like
Yeah,
the black belts in the car.
yeah.
Or the
Yeah,
white belt
yeah.
going to the 2-stripe white belt going to jujitsu, and
Yeah.
it's like the whitest dude playing like gangster
Great
rap.
gangster rap music, yeah.
I love those videos.
And because of that, I have like one of the guys that trains with us is a full-time physical therapist, and he's a great physical therapist. And it's always great in the jujitsu community to have a physical therapist that hangs around because everybody's hurt, bro.
Everything hurts.
It's a clown show, dude. That you put 25 adults in a room that's all been grappling for like 10 years, and you're just like, there's tape out, there's people trying to put it together, And he
Yes.
goes, what he asked me, he's like, what's your goal fitness wise? I said, one, stay on the mat as long as I can, and lose muscle slower than everybody else my age. That's
Mhm.
my
Yep.
goal. I just don't
Yep.
want to lose muscle. I want to keep muscle as long as I can to be a functional, strong human being. I want to be able to model the behavior for the kids that are around me. Right?
Yes.
Mhm.
I
Huge.
want them to see me lifting. I want them to see me eating healthy. I want them to see me at any age care about being a strong man who can lead a group of kids, right? Um,
Kids will judge you, and
we're
so will your
Yeah.
clients. And what's crazy is there's a nutritionist in our area who's, I would say he's obese. He's very fat. And I'm shocked that people listen to somebody who's the nutrition guru
Yeah.
who can't do it. And listen, I don't say that. First of all, like, Joe DeSena just did a podcast with RFK Jr. about,
Yeah.
the Make America Healthy Again. And he said that he had a recent conversation with a young lady who had graduated medical school. Oh no, she's a nurse. I'm sorry, nurse going to work in a hospital. And they said, listen, when you're asking these questions, surveying, whatever, before somebody's being admitted, you can't use the word fat or obese. And he's like, we're so sensitive. And RFK said, life is a struggle. And if you could learn that in your younger years, that it's very important. And I just thought that was interesting that, in a hospital setting, how do we make progress? We have to tell somebody the truth. You have to say to somebody, listen, you're 20 pounds overweight. You're carrying that fat on your body. And this is going to cause, major health issues for you. You're not going to see your
Mhm.
kids get married. It's like, but what if we lie about everything and we're sensitive about everything? We can't make progress without somebody just stop
You
beating
don't
around
get
the bush.
anywhere. Yeah.
And what I was going to say real quick before I forget, and I want to hear what Grace's saying is, the reason why I say people judge you is because in my first few weeks at the school, I'll never forget these kids were walking behind me, and I heard him say, "Look at Coach Even-Esh's back. Look at his traps." And I knew right then and there, oh, they're looking to see if I actually do the damn thing that I tell them
Absolutely.
to do.
You
So
felt good
Greg,
about
we're
yourself when they said that too, right?
Yes.
100%, but it
Probably you're
Good
like,
pat
oh
on the
was,
yeah,
back.
but
yeah.
I had not been in a high school. I had my private facility started in '02, and then my outside of private was Lehigh and Rutgers. So I was never in a teenage. Well, some of the guys in college are teenagers, but I wasn't in that very influential age. But I guarantee you, adults must judge. Like if one female investing in Gray's nutrition coaching, they got to be looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
her and saying, "Oh, I could listen to her."
Yeah.
That's half the way I sell what I do, right? Like people look at me, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but they look at me and they say, well, that's the physique that I'd like to have. That's how you sell your business, honestly. I practice what I preach,
Yes,
It's 100.
leading.
Where are you located? I was going to ask
I'm in New Jersey.
what part of New
Oh,
Jersey?
it's a
I
little
love
beach town called Manasquan.
I love Manasquan.
Oh,
You been
I
there?
have loved, oh my God, yeah. I have one of my really close girlfriends is from Middletown. And so I used to go up for the summers.
That's where I work, Middletown School District.
Okay, so she went to one of the high schools there,
Yeah,
Middletown South, maybe.
that's where I am. Yep.
Okay,
So
cool. I love that.
she may have gone. I'm not sure how old you are, but in those
28.
okay, so she would have graduated during a time where they were like #1 in the state for football. They may have even been ranked like
Yeah.
top in the country. It was this just like crushers over there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of private schools in the area. So sometimes we lose that elite,
Right.
6'4", 6'6" kid to a private school. But
Yeah.
you know who like a lot of times find out about us is like surfers. So I remember I was at, did you guys ever go to Wadapalooza in Florida, in Miami?
Mm-mm.
So that is, I went there, I think in like 2012 with the guys from Barbell Shrugged. and they introduced me to the co-founder of Hurley. Do you know that clothing brand, Hurley? I think he sold his share, but he's like, "Oh, where are you from?" I was like, like you probably never heard of this. This like little town, this beach town. He's like, "Oh, just tell me." I was like, "It's called Manasquan. It's like a little surf town." He's like, "I've surfed there."
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I used to literally go there for the summer. Like I would go up for a week for the summer and go to Manasquan, like the Bar Osprey, you know, the Bar Osprey in Manasquan. I've lost my ID there. I've lost my phone there. I've lost my wallet there.
It's crazy
Love
how people
Osprey.
know the town is, I don't even know if it's a 2 square mile town, but basically
Tiny.
my gym is a mile from the beach and I live about a mile to my gym. So
Hilarious.
we moved here. My son is 16 and close to a half. So we moved here 15 years ago because, Josh, I actually clearly remember you speaking. We spoke at the Summer Strong that was in the, what was the sport arena
The hockey
called?
arena. Yeah. The Plex.
The Plex.
Yeah, the hockey arena. Yep.
You were talking about children playing. And that was kind of the early years of me living in Manasquan. That was about 09-ish. That was definitely 20. I don't know.
I'd say we moved in that spot with Sornex in 2011.
Okay. It was around about then.
Well,
It's a little bit of a blur, but you were talking about kids not playing. In this town, kids ride their bikes everywhere.
Is that just beach culture though? Is that beach culture?
It's honestly personal experience though, from being in New Jersey is such an active state. Like at least the beach towns there and where my friend lived, everybody was so active, extremely active.
Where your friend lives, I think a lot of them go to a beach about 15 minutes away by car. But in the area, it's very interesting is you could go to like state parks. They're kind of all around. So you want to do outdoor, you know, if you live in where your friend is, Middletown, that's central New Jersey. You could drive 15 minutes north or south, not even, and get to a beach. And so what are they doing? Surfing. Like my son in the summertime is gone all day. Huh? So he'll be gone. They're at the beach. They body surf, they boogie board, they surf. I'm dropping things off if they don't have it. They're there all day. Then they eat at like the taco places. And then what do they do at night? They're fishing off the sand, or somebody owns a boat and they're out fishing at night. Like I was on what we call the inlet with my wife and my parents. And then there's like a dog beach. And I see my son like walking out to the water. His friend pulls up in a boat. They climb in and they're out. And I was thinking to myself, man, this is why we moved here, because I saw all the kids outside, and where we moved from was becoming very city-like. And I knew I wouldn't be able to say, go ride your bike to town and get yourself breakfast.
Neat. Yeah, it's neat.
In this town, you know, my kid, by the time they're like 8 years old, every parent knows your kid. So if they're riding their bike through town and I don't have my eyes on you, somebody else has their eyes on you. That's awesome, man.
Boy, if that's not something we've lost in this country.
100%.
Big time. RFK was saying his parents would kick out everybody. There was 11 siblings, kick them out, do not come back till dinner. And the dinner time was usually at sundown. So in the summertime, sundown in the Northeast is an hour earlier. Like that New England area is an hour earlier than getting to the Carolinas. So 7 p.m. dinner, but then you'd be back outside till your parents whistled for you, which was usually 10 p.m., something like that. And so I put, you know, a dozen miles on my bike every day, I think, in the summertime.
Huge. Yeah.
We've lost that in our culture. Yeah. And that brings up another thing. Physical education, right?
I was going to relate it back to toughness too.
And wellness and physical education. Like, I don't remember as a kid playing so much. I don't remember ever like being stuck inside the house. I remember playing all the time. I remember running around,
fighting my parents to come in.
Physical education.
Where did you, Josh, you grew up in
Michigan,
Florida or South Carolina?
I grew up in Michigan.
Oh, and Gray, you grew up in South Carolina?
In Greenville.
Oh, so how do you have your friend up in New Jersey from college?
From a study abroad program. We both studied abroad together.
Okay, where did you
Yeah,
go to your undergrad or grads? Where did you go to
South
school?
Carolina. Yep,
USC.
at USC. I moved to Columbia and I was in Columbia for 8 years. That's how I met Josh.
Yep.
And then when I studied abroad, I met Vic, who's from Middletown. Yeah,
Nice. We'll have
yeah,
to link up later and hear
I
her
know.
last name. But
Yeah,
it's interesting. Michigan is freezing, Josh.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
But
No, it's
it
different.
didn't deter you. You just had a
No.
different, like in Michigan or these cold weather states, the kids are out playing hockey. And I mean, so that stuff is gone. And I get it as a father of 2 kids, although my kids are quote unquote older now. My daughter's a senior, she's 18. My son is 16. He'll be driving soon. But I knew, like, depending on where you live, even if you grew up in the 80s, you're exposed to so much fear mongering on the internet.
Mhm.
And you're like, damn, there's a bunch of freaks out there. You don't want your kids without you. And so everything became controlled. So I don't think we're ever going back to 80s style living where kids would ride their bike 5 miles to the park for recreation, soccer, football practice, baseball practice. Now, people you're in my age, Josh, and even younger coaches like Greg, they don't want to coach in high school and hear all these rules. School has so many rules, and you can't challenge the kids or push
Mhm.
them because then you're a mean person. But then the people our age, Josh, started these damn businesses of travel teams, and now nobody knows how to jump without somebody telling them how to jump. Like, you know what I'm saying? Somebody gets hurt on a playground. That playground, I've seen playgrounds get like ripped out of schools because
Lawsuits,
somebody broke
hurt
a hand.
themselves. Yeah.
But I was
yeah,
like, dude, that meme on Instagram was like, I died 8 times on this playground and my mom told me to walk it off.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Yeah.
that is true. And
Well,
so,
I think too, one thing I like about what I do now is I feel like I have a certain responsibility to make kids tough.
no doubt.
And make kids because life's tough,
Are
right?
you
Yeah,
are you a phys ed certified teacher?
Nope.
In
It's a
South Carolina, you're in
it's
a
a private
private
school.
school.
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
Mike Srock said South Carolina is not so like stuck in the thinking of we have to hire a strength coach who's only health and physical education certified, because the truth is they're not teaching strength and conditioning in the schools, in the colleges. So what
Mhm.
was your degree in, Gray? What did
Exercise
you
science.
get
Oh,
your
okay, go
you
ahead.
did exercise
Yeah.
science,
I
and what did
I
you
was
do?
actually political science.
And
I
then you
had
did
no business doing personal training. So I went and became a personal trainer after college and
yep.
ended up loving it. Yeah.
By the way, when you guys talked about training and nutrition, you know who it reminded me of? I love the guy. Even he's very research based when he needs to be. Brett Contreras.
Yeah.
Look how he
Mm,
trains his women.
Yeah.
yeah.
Strength.
Strength. Big strong
We
girls.
we think the same
Yeah.
thing. It's like boring. It's boring practice. It's
Mhm.
protein. It's get enough sleep. It's lift heavy weights, and it's don't stress yourself out.
Let
That's
me
how
ask
we
you this,
coach.
Zach. Do you get coaches be like, hey Zach, let me come spend a day and watch what you do? Right? I'm sure you get that, right?
It's been a while
Yeah.
since that happened. When a coach wants to come to the underground, I'll usually say, listen, that's what we reserve like our certifications for. And the reason why I do that is not because I'm saying you got to pay me, but the parents are paying us to train the kids.
Mhm.
And so in the early days when we did this, it ended up being like an educational seminar for the coach.
Yeah,
And we were
yeah.
shortchanging the kids.
Yeah, got you.
And as I got older, I just became almost like protective of the kids, where
Mhm.
it's my job to give them the best. And I even said this to like our coaches today is, you know, before anybody does a free trial at the underground, I want 2 things to happen. I want them to read the website from top to bottom. So they see how membership works, they see testimonials, they could maybe relate to somebody, as you guys were saying, when you do consulting.
Mhm.
And then they see the minimum membership is 3 months, and then they see the price. I don't want somebody to come do their free trial, their intro, their eval, and then they're like, well, let me see and let me think about it and let me look at the website. I well, we just spent more time with you than the people who are paying to be here.
Yeah.
So that's why I always tell people, if somebody did not do, if you want to refer somebody to us, the best thing you can do is just send them to our website. Our website will do everything from there. And then I'm taking care of people who are investing in us to take care of them.
Yeah.
And, that's the reality. If somebody does a trial with us, I'm spending, I'm giving them a lot of attention that day. And so when a coach reaches out, I tell them, if you want to come to my high school, you could do it.
Yeah.
But I tell them, I'm probably going to be so busy, I'm not really going to be talking to you a whole lot because I'm actively coaching. Or you know what else I tell them, which totally scares them, is I say, okay, but you have to train with us. And then they're like, I'm on my own program and my back and my this and my that. And I'm like, well, then you don't really want to learn.
Yeah.
You just told me you want to learn, but you're telling me you're on a program that's so good that you cannot change it for one day. Like it'll end the world for you.
I tell people, if they come to the school to watch what I do and they'll come or just want to come back, you're going to be very underwhelmed. I tell them because it's so, my kids are really good at about 6 or 7, 8 lifts.
Nice. Yeah.
They're really good at those 7, 8 or 9 lifts. We do them with mixed intensity and volume throughout the year, whether they're in season or out of season, and they're robots. They come in and they can get it done. We jump, we carry things, we trap bar deadlift, we do pull-ups, we bench, we teach them how to squat low. We got safety bar squats too. We got all kinds of different things. And I'll write programs for kids because I'll have a group of kids, but then sometimes on the side we'll have kids who come in who are off season or not, or just want to train a little bit of programs I've written them. It's a real interesting environment. And the parents were like, well, we'd like something a little bit more sport specific. And I'm like, you know what your 15-year-old needs to learn? How to do a pull-up, a push-up, squat, carry something on their chest.
Yeah.
Trap bar deadlift.
They don't want to hear that.
Jumping. They don't want to hear it. They want to see something crazy. And it's so underwhelming.
We're very similar. My high school, because of the large numbers, I've just found that keeping it basic and then varying all that stuff you said, volume, intensity, even the order of the exercises or these slight changes gets them excited. Whereas at my private facility at the underground, we do a lot more advanced, but I have 6 or 8 in a group.
Yeah.
Our first group of the day tends to be like a bigger 12 or 14 kid group. Saturday morning is also busy, so I make those adjustments accordingly. But like today, I trained girls soccer. Today there was like an after-school faculty meeting, so I didn't train football. But football trained yesterday, JV football. I have 25 minutes with them. Okay, coaches are adamant they want them on the field by 2:45. So we do a warm-up. I think I usually do like squat, lunge. Oh no, I did squat, jump, push up, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2.
Yeah.
I said squat, jump, 10 and 8 is easy, just kind of rhythm. 6, 4, 2, pick up the pace. On your push-ups, when you get to 4 and 2, make it a clapping push-up. So I did 2 things for a warm-up. Then I did a 15-minute circuit. Trap bar deadlift or goblet squat, 6 reps. Dumbbell bench, 6 reps. And then choice of body weight power, 6 reps. So this had to be a squat jump, a lunge jump, a speed recline row. Like I gave them a choice of body weight, 3 things. But I was like, I just want that volume of work. And then you got some freshmen deadlifting 275 for 6 reps, benching 75-pound dumbbells for 6 reps, squat jumping. Yeah. But then listen, we also got kids dumbbell benching 25s for 6 reps, all over the place. But here's what's interesting, Josh. The kids that are quote unquote too good for that, I'm not training with my team. I got a private coach. I hate to say this because I'm a private coach and I don't know what is going on out there. We have kids that see private coaches that come back 10 months later, can't do a body weight squat past halfway.
No, I've seen it.
It's like they can't do that. They don't even know how to lap dumbbells after dumbbell benching, or they dumbbell bench and their shoulders are hunched. They do half reps. They bench without touching the chest. And I'm like, who trained you?
Yeah.
Who did you just pay for 10 months? And now you came
and
back.
It's one-on-one work, or is it in a
It might be groups, but still I train groups. And listen, when I've got 60 kids, am I missing things? Oh yeah,
of course.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
But if I see somebody doing something wrong and another person doing something wrong, I blow the whistle. I bring everybody in.
Yeah.
Hey guys, just recap it. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say too, if you're repeating the same movements over and over again, you're gonna catch whatever they're doing wrong. Like I teach in a studio, and so exercises change all the time, which is one of my frustrations with any kind of studio. But it's hard to catch people doing things wrong if you're always doing a different exercise. So when you have repetitiveness inside of programming, which is what I do when I have a little bit more freedom of writing, when you have repetitiveness, I can actually monitor somebody. I saw them do this exercise last week. I'm going to watch it again and be like, all right, here's what you're doing wrong. That's why repetition is so important, not just from a strength aspect, but let me make sure I'm doing it right and actually remember how to do it right when I go into next week.
Pops used to say, we used to, being at Sorinex, that place was so, I remember Pops' thing was, there's saying and there's doing, pal. Because there'd be some kid that'd be like, man, I could probably squat 225 for 50. And he'd say it in passing. Pops would come out of his office with a $20 bill, throw 225, slap $20 bill and put the kid on it. And the kid never met Pops in his life, but he's like 18 years old, and Pops just staring at him. I've seen kids do amazing things because Pops came out and said, you're doing it.
Yeah.
And the kid did something absolute, and that 225 for 50 is a true story. Like a kid talked trash and Pops put a $20 bill and said, you got this if you do this 225 for 50.
I did it for 50 once. I still remember the day.
It's horrible, man. It's one of the worst.
I got to like 46, 47, and then I had a spotter on the final 3.
Yeah.
But I remember preparing for it mentally. I remember playing the movie through my head. I remember the day I did it.
Yeah.
And I just remember during my warm-ups I would go 135, 225, 315. And I remember like I would do 20 reps, 15 reps, 10 reps at 315. And I remember just 315 felt easy. 225 felt easy. And then I was like, I think I just need to do something crazy. And I had seen the Tom Platz. Do you remember the Tom Platz?
The high bar, low bar squat of
when he was with the WWE bodybuilding. It was the WWF created a bodybuilding federation in the early 90s that was more about like showmanship and this like light show. And the Mr. Olympia was drug tested one year, and so they actually drug tested it's called the World. So it was the WWF wrestling. So it was the WWBF Bodybuilding Federation. Vince McMahon owned it. But I remember on ESPN every weekend they had bodybuilding shows, and WWF had a bodybuilding show. And I remember Tom Platz it's on YouTube, of course. Now he did a squat off against Dr. Fred Hatfield, Dr. Squat.
Wow, really? Eddie Cohen,
face to face.
Real, and Tom Platz had legs that were like, I mean, that didn't even look like I was on a normal human being, right?
Of course.
It's just different. Ed Cohen spoke at the last Summer Strong.
Yeah, I was there listening, and we chatted quite a bit.
Did you really?
Yeah. Chatted quite a bit off. That's why I asked him what Gray said is actually what Eddie said about minimal frequency. He's like, yeah, I deadlifted for 12 reps for like 2 weeks in a row, maybe 3 weeks, then 10s, then 8s. He's like, I didn't do this, then that. He's like, it was just pounding the stone.
Did you ever do any of his programs growing up?
Because
Eddie Cohen squat programs, bench programs.
I never had any access to that. Although I remember buying the Muscle and Fitness magazine with Eddie on the cover. He had like the nice wet white sweatsuit on, and I believe powerlifting where I grew up, there was very few powerlifters, and the powerlifters they just looked like shit. It wasn't like powerlifters today who had that look of power. Yeah. I remember one guy was like tall and skinny, and he just didn't build muscle. I was like, I don't want to train like him. He looks like he doesn't lift. Then the other guy was just short and fat. It didn't inspire me.
Eddie Cohen wasn't lying. I've done a bench program from him. It was literally 2 weeks of 12s, 2 weeks of 10s, 3 weeks of 8s, 3 weeks of 5s, a couple weeks of 3s, and 2 weeks of singles, and you're stronger.
Yeah. That's how I write programs now.
I've been doing a little bit of that since that conversation. And I spoke with, I had spoke with Andy Baker, not this spring, the previous. And so he does a 3-week cycle. 853 or 852 if
Yeah.
you're advanced.
Mhm.
I've been using it for high school kids, but if you're beginner, it's 855 again.
Okay.
And try to that third week, the 5 needs to look better. Maybe it's heavier, maybe not. I tell kids, we don't even have to add weight, but once a month. Because if I just add a 5 each side once a month, 10 pounds, that's 100 pounds to your lift at the end of the month.
That's a good way to look at it.
You don't even have forget about, Mark Ripito says just keep adding 5s. I can't add a 5 every workout, but in high school, can I add a 5 every month? Or what if I just add, if I just add 50 pounds, a 2.5, I don't have 2.5s, by the way. I got rid of all of them because I said, if it's got to be 2.5, that means you're second guessing yourself. You can't be a 5. We're not doing it.
Yeah.
But if I just add a 5 each side, I got rid of all of them. Hate to break your heart, guys. My high school, when I got there would be like, let's say the squat rack would have 4 45s here, no 25s, a 35, and like 7 2.5s. Then over here, no 2.5s. I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
So what I did was I went to the cafeteria, asked the lunch ladies for 2 milk crates. I took all the fucking 2.5s, put them in the milk crates, and I put them in my truck and brought them to a buddy who welded them as thick handle dumbbells, because the kids were trying to add weight. I'd see somebody squatting with, let's say, a 45, a 35, and a 10. Then this side had 45, 25, 10, 5, 5. I'm too type A. I was like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
So I had heard Dan John. Maybe I read about it. That's how long ago it was. He was a high school strength coach at a Catholic school back in the day. And he said every squat rack was the same. It had like a certain number of 45s, and then it only had 1/4, 1/10, 1/5. No 35s. Okay, if you got to go
35s were new to me
Mm-hmm.
growing up. I never heard of 35s. Yeah.
I had seen them, but it's just like, I feel like when you have too many options at this high school level, you could confuse kids, and they could make the wrong decision with weight selection. So now every squat rack is like, 4 plates, 2/4, 2/10s, 2 5s, or 3 5s. It's probably better if I just did 2 of everything, because I equate it to, as a dad, my kid goes into a kindergarten class or 3rd grade class, and then the posters are upside down and this way, and there's paint thrown here. Then the other class, it's clean. This wall is this color. It's painted. The kid could now feel, like this all makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Versus
it's structure.
Sorry, I once was in a high school weight room. The squat rack was pushed in the corner, and so there was only weights loaded on one side. I don't even know how they used it. I came in, there was like over 3 plates on the bar on the floor, and it just showed a blatant disrespect. And so I love the book Legacy, where they all clean, sweep the sheds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. I've been there for, it's my 6th year. If I'm not there, the kids won't clean. And I have a real big problem with that, because now the next group coming in, we need to clean up after you because you're too good to put your stuff away.
I love that saying, sweep the sheds.
Yeah. And then their other saying is, I think, no assholes.
Yeah.
Like, if you're an asshole, we're not waiting on the coach to reprimand you. And I think the culture of the school changes. It depends where you are. But I've said to kids, hey, you need to talk to those 3 kids. And they're like, we try to do that, coach, but then other people make fun of us. But then another team will be like, don't worry, we'll fix it. And so the culture is so different.
That culture fires me up. Like, when you see that burn, that's a burn inside of me to see a team like that. That's a different team.
At my school, I wonder what was your friend in sports, Gray, from Middletown?
I think she cheerleaded.
Okay. So she wasn't on a team sport. So I tell people, in full transparency, like, our most committed team is girls soccer. The toughest thing is in the springtime. The travel soccer is through the roof.
Yeah, that's what I played.
It's crazy. Yeah, I think down south, because of the warm weather, it's probably even crazier.
Yep.
So 2 weeks ago, they couldn't stop talking. And so I just told them, listen, it's 10 minutes early. If you guys are done, I'm done too. Like, I'm not going to train you if you don't want to be here. And they were like, didn't know what to say. They start cleaning. I said, don't even clean. Just let me do it. Just go.
Yeah.
The next day, like 40 girls came up to me and said, sorry. I had 40 emails. I'm not kidding when I say that, 40 emails. They meant it. They really meant it. The next workout,
Wow.
they didn't need me to even tell them how to warm up. They just fucking killed the whole place.
I love it.
I know. And then, like, say, I kick out a boy after talking to him, giving him 5 chances, and I say, come back when you're ready to listen. They don't even know how to come back and say, coach, I'm sorry, I'm going to do this better. They just come back in. And it's so interesting how the boys, like, maybe it's pride, maybe it's just a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
But our girls soccer team, like today, same thing. We warmed up. Some of them were like, I'm really sore. Yesterday, they actually came to play in Manasquan. I bought them pizza on the ride home, but they're like, I'm sore. Can we stretch? All right, warm it up first, get the blood flow. Okay, stretching cold. We know that's not good. Okay, coach. Here, I'll take you through a stretch. Bang. Then they just killed this workout. And they have a game tomorrow. And nobody's like, we have a game tomorrow. Can we not do this? Can we not do that? I just, you know what I do when it's in season? If it says 4 sets, you'll do 3. If it says 3 sets,
That's what
you'll
I
do 2.
Yeah, that's what I do.
It's so simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's exactly perfect.
Yeah. Our football team lives on the day before games, and we just cut it from 3 sets to 2 sets.
Your nervous system feels
Yeah.
powerful. Jesse Ackerman said he would explain it to the guys in the NFL. Hey, man, you're not feeling so good. Let's hit a heavy 5 or a heavy triple. Let's charge the battery.
Yep.
When you don't
It
lift
keeps you
heavy,
going.
it
Yeah.
keeps you going and your body feels better. If something on me hurts, I mobilize. You
Have to.
mentioned
Yeah.
Kelly Starrett's book, the Supple Leopard book. I'll just go on his YouTube. I'll open his book. I have a book here in my office, and then we keep a book at the gym. I'll mobilize, and then I strength train that area. I don't avoid it.
Load it. No, load it. Load the discomfort. Yes.
My knee was feeling a little wonky, like a little weird in the bottom of squats and deadlifts. I just started attaching a band and doing an old Dick Hartzell band.
Oh, that's a name right there, isn't it? Come on now. Yeah.
Adduction. I was like, oh, these little muscles needed to wake up and get stronger. Dick Hartzell, thank God, whoever it is, somebody posted his old videos, from VHS. His flexibility training was really strength training.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time, they're like, my hamstring's tight, I need to stretch. My hamstring's tight, you need to load it.
Load it and stretch it.
And load it.
Make it stronger.
Did you ever see the video of Dick Hartzell jumping on a twisted ankle? Where he
I
jumped
think
up?
I did. Is he at the park?
He's on a table somewhere doing a presentation. Great.
And it breaks. Doesn't it break?
I think the table breaks. So Dick Hartzell was a guy. Is this the 90s? Was Dick Hartzell in the 90s?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And early 2000s. Early West Side.
The different colored stretch bands that are out there. You got the small stretch bands. Okay. Dick Hartzell create a whole system off those bands around stronger joints. Great. I'll send you some stuff. It's some of the coolest stuff you'll ever see.
Yeah, it's
and
on
he's
YouTube.
so
It's
energy. He's so full of energy. And it's this older guy in a sweatsuit. And you're like, who's this? This is like the Javork stuff. I still do Javork circuits here. I don't call them Javork circuits. We do 8 like skull crushers, curls, standing, squat, shoulder, and press in rows, and we warm up Javork circuits, right?
Well, you guys talk about like. Go ahead.
He would twist his ankle. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. If I didn't see it, he would show how strong his joints were. He would jump up in the air, twist his ankle, and land on it. There they are. Yeah.
Well, these are the compression bands.
Compression bands. Yeah.
But I take them, and then also the light bands for stretching. And you can if you go on YouTube, Gray, you could find his old videos.
I'll look at it.
And it
very powerful.
And it's really good stuff. But the Dick Hart, listen, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed that, right? Like I still use all that stuff, and we all still get kids big and strong.
Yeah.
They don't know the name. They call it what you want, but kids get big and strong doing the same stuff they've always done, right?
Yes.
And you brought up that team. When you think about that girls' soccer team, right?
They're amazing.
What lessons are they learning that they're going to take for life. You're building, those are leaders, man. Those are leaders. Those
Mhm.
girls are going to learn something, and they're going to understand teamwork. They're going to understand accountability. They're going to understand there's consequences when I screw up. They're going to
Mhm.
understand the love for each other. You can't, you can't replace that. You
It's
can't
so
learn
f-
that in anything else other than
Yeah.
sports in your life to make you a better human when you get older. Nothing does that like high school sports.
Yeah. I know Josh knows this. I say it all the time. I learned the most from sports, the most in
yes.
my youth.
Well, my daughter just gave me this like intern eval form, and so there's a restaurant that opened in our town, and we trained the owner, and the owner was like, man, Summer, she's amazing. He's like, you could just tell she's an athlete because she organizes everything like she's a coach. And so he's like, one day they were struggling with coverage for something, and they have restaurant managers, and the restaurant manager couldn't do it, and this and that. And then Summer gets in the group chat, and she's like, hey, do this, blah 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 blah. He's like,
Mhm.
I should just fucking pay Summer 75,000 to manage the restaurant.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, she's such an athlete. He's like, I think I need to hire athletes. They know how to
Mhm.
think on their feet. But those girls are leaders. And but their coach has, like, hey, the coach says to them, girls, we have a standard. We're known for being championship level players. And so we always have a target on our back, even when we're supposed to win. There's more pressure on us. And the girls are never like, I don't know, it's that's maybe too much for me. They just rise up. They blow my mind. They made me. I was actually thinking today when I was training them, I was like, I used to be afraid to train girls. I was like, man, I'm gonna be training all these girls, 40 something girls. And that's a dad. I have a daughter who I've trained my daughter, but those girls made me a better coach. And so when I was
I
watching them
love it,
today,
dude. Awesome.
I was like, my God, these girls friggin' amazing. But I
Mhm.
remember what they got me better at was being more flexible. So I wasn't used to training 60 to 80. So I'd be training girls soccer, and then I might have lacrosse at the same time, or wrestling. So the numbers were massive. And I remember, I'm going through the workout, and I always would like break it into two parts. One team here, the other team here. I'll switch you in about 15 minutes. And these girls were waiting to dumbbell bench, but we don't have a whole lot of dumbbell benches. And I said, you don't barbell bench unless you could dumbbell bench this much. Then I see these two girls barbell benching, and I'm right about to tell them you can't do that. And then I was like, oh, I saw you girls benching, and they're like, yeah, we're waiting over there. We're waiting too long. And I was like, oh my God, it doesn't even matter. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And then they were like, yeah, I wanted to dumbbell squat, but the boys were using all the dumbbells. So we just set up the bar and did it
Mhm.
on our own. They're more self thinkers. And if you could empower the girls, they become friggin' killers. And
Oh,
so
Mhm.
in the weight room, that'll make a girl. I swear my strongest lifting females are the most aggressive on the field.
the girl soccer is so physical. And I always tell them, I go, why do we, do these carries? You were mentioning carries. I was like, because when somebody's like girl soccer is a violent game.
Yes, yes.
If the referee can't see, you see them like grabbing
Yeah,
jerseys. There's almost like punches, or
yeah,
there's something going on.
yeah.
And I tell them, when somebody bangs into you, you want them to think twice about doing it the next time, or
Mhm.
they bang into you and kind of like bounce off of you. And so it's cool to see girls getting strong. And of course, watching Brett Bartholomew training girls,
Yes,
seeing those
yeah.
women like lifting tremendous weight and doing pull-ups and military presses, it all just reinforced to me, hey, this is the right thing to do. And then of course, having a daughter, now my daughter's a senior in high school. I was like had a little bit experience training girls, but I tell people, man, you want to kill it. I think girls, Gray, if you ever think this way, like to open up a girls only strength and conditioning facility, oh my God, we'll
Yeah.
kill it.
I
Yeah.
think I think seeing a girl realize do you follow the rugby girl on social media? Ilana
No.
Alona.
Ilona
Alona Meyer.
My
Oh,
Meyer.
she's like
Yeah.
strong, right? I'll follow.
5'10", 5'10", 200 pounds.
What's
Mhm.
I'll
It's
Ilona.
Ilona.
Yeah. She
Say
said
that. How do I spell it again?
Ilona.
I might follow her from the gym. IL.
Ona. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
oh yeah,
pretty
it
sure.
pops
Yeah.
right up.
And I
There you
might take
go.
this clip and tag her and let her know that she's
We talk
in,
about it 2 weeks in a row.
did we really?
Yeah.
Zach, I'm telling you,
Ilona.
she's got video. Well, she's always been the bigger, stronger girl, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
she felt kind of bad about it. And she didn't know how to be feminine, wasn't sure about being feminine. And then she goes, then I realized playing rugby, my body had utility.
Huh.
And
She's
I
how
could,
heavy? 220?
she's 200, about 5'10",
200.
200. She had a
Yeah.
BMI of 30. She had the same BMI I have.
Well, you know what's interesting is like, who's intimidated by those women is weaker men.
Weaker men. I think she's awesome.
A strong man loves another strong woman.
She goes, I watched clips of her, Zach, dude. When I tell you she'd get in rugby and she would run through girls, I'm talking like old school, I mean, shoulder down and run through girls. And she
College
goes,
rugby is now like women's cut. There was a
she was
girl
on the
from
Olympic team. She was on the
there was a
Olympic team.
girl from my school last year that I don't know what state she went to. She's a freshman now for rugby.
Yeah.
So there's like rugby clubs. And
Mhm.
then
Yeah,
that's
there are.
also what's bringing back wrestling. So wrestling got a lot of cancellations in the mid 90s for Title IX.
Yeah.
Well, how are they bringing it back? Women's
Rugby.
wrestling.
Oh, women's
Women's
wrestling.
wrestling. So if
Yeah,
you want,
true.
if you want to
True.
bring back the men's program for the D3 program that got cut, okay.
Bring back the girls program.
Yep.
I'll
And
have
so
to find my
Yeah.
old video of because I played lacrosse and I played soccer, but I'll have to find my old video from my state game where I knocked a girl out
Yeah.
running through. But it's true, it's girls' sports are way more violent than boys'
they're
sports.
very
We
violent.
Hey,
have a
I've said it
vendetta.
before.
We walk out with a vendetta.
You
Oh
mentioned it
my
earlier.
goodness.
The toughest football game I've ever watched was a girls' soccer game.
Heck yeah.
They're brutal, vicious.
Mhm.
They'll
Every
run each other
time-
over. They'll pull on hair. They're pushing in face.
Yep. Every
love it.
time I watch girls soccer, I don't like I love to try to get to any kind of athlete competition. I love to go and watch like freshman football. I love to watch our underdog teams.
Yeah.
Of course, I love varsity, but I love the kids that are just trying to get up there.
Yeah.
But whenever I watch girls soccer, I tell them, I go, girls, I don't drive home and think to myself, we need more hurdle drills and speed and agility. I start thinking we need to do shrugs and bent over rowing,
Rows,
and
yeah.
we need to carry. I don't
Yeah.
find myself thinking
Yeah.
we need fancy shit. And I think, we mentioned like, what do parents think? Parents think that's what their kid need. And
Mhm.
I've never had kids come back worse than when they go to a place that's known for speed and agility, quote unquote. It's like, I saw a hockey player today. He's the same size as he was 2 years ago. Hockey, where you're getting checked into a wall. He told me, he's like, I think I dislocated my shoulder. I said, that's why you need to strength train, because we build body armor. We protect your body. He's like, yeah, I'm doing it now with physical therapy. And I said, strength training is the before physical therapy.
Yeah.
And he just won't, and I said, listen, do you know how expensive it is to train here? I said, it's so expensive, it's free. And that's the problem. There's no exchange of money, so they don't value it.
Yeah.
And John Wellborn told me, he said, it's called proximity bias. So people might say in Manasquan, I know Zach Even-Esh. There's no way that our guy in town is an expert. You're not going there. We'll take you to this other place or at my school. He's just a PE teacher. He don't know nothing. We're going to go.
Confused when you told me that the football team didn't work out with you.
Yeah, football
Because
trains
that
with me
blew my
once a
mind.
week.
And I call it you call it proximity bias. I call it the preacher next door. Nobody wants to listen to the preacher next door, right? They want to listen to the preacher far away, right? They don't think that, well, definitely that guy who's been doing this for so long, he can't live in next door to me. We got to go get this expert somewhere else that he's got to be the expert.
Coach Johnny Parker, legend, said, with his accent, the definition of an expert is somebody with a different zip code.
And that's
I said,
so
holy
true.
crap, dude, that is crazy
That's
true.
So true.
Yeah, football, we have a new coach, and he wanted to rebuild the culture because before the kids there was really no mandate for them to train. And so he would train them in the evenings, which to his benefit, now if you're in lacrosse or baseball, you can't say, I can't lift. Well, yes, you can. You're coming back at night when the coach runs it. Now I train them during lunch, which has alleviated the other issue we used to have, which was I will just go to the trainer after school, get some a heating pad or a stim, and then I'll go lift.
Yeah.
And so John Wellborn said to me, he goes, I noticed very quickly that the guys in the NFL who were in the training room, they never left. He's like, it was like a virus. And if you didn't get out of there fast enough, you're going to basically eradicate yourself. You're going to remove yourself from the team. You will get the training room virus where they coddle you. You're so comfortable. And at the high school level, you know who could get away with it? The genetic freak who's 6'1", 6'4". He's strong just from mom's home cooking. He doesn't need to lift with you. But those kids are going to, when they get to college, you're back at square one or even negative.
I've seen it a million times. Yeah.
I've seen it. Listen, and it's every sport. You know, I told my daughter, you're going to get to this next level. You're going to have to battle for your singles position. Maybe you'll be up there for doubles, but your first year is going to be a lot of just the emotional and the mental aspect. And so, you know, a lot of when coaches in my school are asking, hey, where are the results with this kid? I just say, let's first, before you want to point a finger at me, let's look at the attendance. He or she hasn't been here at all in the off season. We're talking 9 months of nothing. Or let's look at the in season. You know, I actually last year, to really try to get this strength class going, I did a sheet of tracking injuries. 95% of our injuries were kids.
You posted that, didn't you? You posted that, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't post the names.
But you posted that set, yeah.
Yep, and everything was like, did not train in the off season, barely, or did not train preseason, didn't train in the summer, like skipped summer workouts. And so on the flip side, that's where a football coach running the weight room helps, because kids today know that the ultimate say of when you play is the football coach. Playing time. I don't know, impact your playing time unless your football coach or whatever coach comes in and takes attendance. My girls soccer coach started seeing like girls would go to the training room, and she said, from now on, if you're hurt, you're still going to Coach Even-Esh and he'll give you an alternative plan.
Yeah.
Because if your back hurts, I'm just going to do goblet squat. Oh, you can't goblet squat? We'll do split squats.
Yeah,
they don't realize, they don't even realize that it's harder.
Yeah.
You know, okay, instead of farmer walk, you'll do a one-arm carry. You're also going to do side planks. Oh, your back hurts? You'll do 4 sets of sleds. And then you realize, oh, fuck, I better stop saying like this hurts, because every alternative is still
practice is a lot better. Practice in the normal
challenging.
Workout.
Yeah. Dude. So you need the support of coaches.
I tell you, I'm really glad to have you on, from your insight, from the history of lifting, your passion for it. There's nothing, I'll give you a compliment, and I don't know if you're great at taking compliments.
I suck.
You might be. The passion you carry for the game bleeds onto people. I see it in the National High School Strength and Conditioning Association page. When you comment, the Facebook group, when you comment and you show passion, you're in. I just want you to know you're inspired. I mean, I told you, 2006, I was on it. I was on it in 2006, and I didn't meet you until 2000, maybe 10 or 11, maybe.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to meet you because of your passion.
Yeah, I like need to go to bed right now, and I'm like ready to go live.
Yeah, right. You're passionate.
I'm sorry.
And like, I appreciate simplicity. I'm a pretty simple guy.
Me too.
You're a very simple in how you train people, but you do it with simple things done with intensity yield results. And you do that. I want to thank you for coming on our podcast.
I'm excited. I'm glad we did it.
I look forward to seeing you again. I look forward.
Yes.
I watch everything you put out. I follow everything you do. Simply because of the energy behind it shows passion.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it anywhere. And it's interesting because some people get turned off by it. It's too much. You don't like it.
Shame on them.
Yeah, shame on that, right? I don't.
Makes me sometimes feel bad, like I should tone it down. I'm like, listen,
No, don't tone it down. Hey,
No,
wait,
you love what you do.
my
I just
football.
want to be great for these kids. Why
Yeah.
should I feel bad for advocating for them? Why should
Yeah.
I feel bad for trying to protect them?
No, not
And
at all.
I tell people, I go, I will get fired. I'm willing to get fired if it means standing up for the right thing.
100%. I tell my head football coach at my school is a friend of mine. He's a psychopath. I tell him he's a psychopath all the time. He's the nicest guy until you start to understand his competitiveness. And people say things like, "Oh, well, man, he just seems obsessed." And that used to bother him. And I said, "Hey, man," I said, "don't let people confuse obsession and passion.
Mm.
You're not obsessed. You're passionate, and you give everything you got for the kids that sign up to play football for you."
But also, like, obsessed isn't a negative word. Be
Yeah,
obsessed.
I don't know why that's
Should
so
be.
bad. I'm
Yeah.
passionate about it.
You know?
I love it.
I'm obsessed with the craft and giving my best. I'm
Yeah.
passionate to see these kids succeed.
Mhm.
But it's tough at the high school level when sometimes or oftentimes really they're not emotionally ready to take on your coaching and willing to listen.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys with your consulting, working with adults, they're more ready and open-minded.
Yeah.
They've experienced enough pain. Oh, maybe
Yeah.
not.
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah. I tell you, I get what I love seeing a kid in the high school environment do something and do things that he doubted he could do
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it
or
love
she
is.
could
that.
do. When you see
Mhm.
doubt and fear, and I don't know if I can compete, I don't know if I'm good enough, I don't know if I can lift that weight, and you put them in the weight room to use that to create struggle, but then
Mhm.
put them in an environment that they can succeed in the weight room, right? Weight room's hard. You push them, they succeed. You push them, they succeed. You push them, maybe they fail a little bit, but you push them past it.
You're
Right?
building. You're
Mhm.
building the
building it, right?
bricks, and then it's a house.
Then we have our
Mhm.
friend Jeremy Boone, right? We both know
I
Jeremy
love
Boone.
that guy.
I love him. I
Amazing.
love him. He goes, courage builds confidence. And I want my kids to feel so courageous that they can take on anything that their sport taught them. So when they graduate and they leave, I don't care if they never play sports again, they're just fearless
Mhm.
because they've already gone through the struggle.
Training is my therapy for life. I just like
Whew,
it's
that's
done,
real.
you know, it's done everything for me.
Yeah.
And what you guys talk about, that transfer of training, you know, that's a big phrase, right? A big
Yes.
phrase from the Soviets. Dave Tate said something 20 something years ago when people were bashing benching. He's like, well, what if I help a kid bench more and get bigger arms and it boosts his confidence? He's like, is that not transfer of training? Is confident not the most important transfer of training? I can't measure it. It's not a velocity, this, that. But that to me is everything. And that's why building muscle is also important because, like you said, when we first started chatting, that's why the kids in my class are taking their shirts off.
I love it.
I saw boys today like flexing their chest. He's like, hit me. He's like, look at these arms. That kid is way more confident than last year when he couldn't look me in the eye and
Yeah.
talk to me about
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Now
you're building warriors, bro. That's what you're doing. You're building
Life.
warrior men, warrior women, right? That
It's
are going to lead
amazing.
other kids down the line. They're going to have kids. They're going
Yep.
to have to struggle. They're going to lose a job. They're going to fight and struggle here. I want a bunch of little savage little pit bulls coming out of my weight room every day, ready to
Mhm.
chew steel. That's what I want.
for life. You're right. You
Yeah.
will. You'll have ups and downs in relationships. You'll learn to fight when it's right to make it work.
Yeah.
You'll struggle with work. You might lose your job. But if you've always quit and given up and took the easy way, you won't know how to battle. And training teaches
That's
you,
it.
I'm showing up.
Exactly.
I get it. I don't maybe feel that great, but I'm still gonna do it. Or you know, these girls, they're sore. There's a game tomorrow. They didn't say that we need to do easy, and that really has a transfer to life.
Yeah.
I mean, life is hard.
Yeah.
It's the-
Yeah.
Life is
Teaches
hard.
you
You
to do
better
hard
get tough. You
things.
better get tough now. You better
Yep.
get. Hey, business
RFK
ain't easy,
said
bro.
that. He
Business
said
ain't
you got to learn that as a kid. You must learn the toughness as a kid.
Mhm.
I 100%. Hey, man, I'm going to end on that. You got to learn the toughness as a kid. You
Boom.
got to learn the toughness as a kid. I appreciate your time, man.
Thank
We'll
you,
cut it up
guys.
and send it to you.
with all due respect.